Right then, so welcome to the Photography Club. I'm Gavin Rolfe. This is Jenny.
Hello.
Well, Jenny's arm anyway. And if you can see him, this is Ralph. Ralph? Never mind. Wonderful. So we're Rolfe & Co Photography, and while we're on lockdown, we're doing our own little lesson for you. So in the vein of a few other people are doing things, but we didn't see much around art, so we wanted to do the Photography Club, which is giving you kind of lessons that can be used for art or graphic design or illustration, but it's focused around photography. So that's what we know, and that's what we're going to teach. So who hasn't done their homework? I know some people have. Homework was to go on the Photography Club Facebook group and post a comment under at least one of the images with a bit of positivity. So we saw some lovely stuff on there already, but it is really important. So anyone who hasn't done it, please go and do it, because obviously it's what people want to see. A little bit of positivity, some compliments. It kind of makes things easier every day for everyone who's stuck inside. So what we'll do this week, I'll go through this week's topic, explain it, we'll go through a little bit of a task and have a go at that. And then on Tuesday we'll go back through everything, look at everyone's images, and set next week's then. So, moving on. This week we're going to be discussing rule of thirds. Apologise if anybody knows what rule of thirds is anyway. Feel free to let your minds wander while I explain everything anyway. But firstly, most important thing I can tell you is rules are made to be broken. If you're going to break them, however, it is important to understand the rule properly before you break it, so then you can make sure you're breaking it properly. So just because an image doesn't follow what we discussed today, it doesn't fit into that rule, it doesn't make it a bad image or wrong. They're just doing it right and breaking it right, hopefully. So the main intention when you're using the rule of thirds, which I will explain in a minute, is to place your key focus or subjects of a photo along the most visually appealing points of an image. So we can do this. To do this, we're going to divide an image into three parts horizontally and vertically. So it'll look like this. So we've got thirds, so three sections vertically and three sections horizontally, which creates this grid, which we call the rule of thirds. So what we're trying to do is place the really important points on either the lines or on the intersections. And what this is going to do is create the most visually appealing image you can and focus your eye towards the most important points of an image. So yeah, this is a really good one to look at of Dima. If I just go back again, so you can look at the image a little bit closer. And you can see how actually his eye is perfectly on that intersection and his body follows that line perfectly. So it creates this really nice dynamic look to it. So it creates, you've got lots of negative space, which those who did the shape lesson with us saw, but it's always leading your eye back to this line. So we'll look at a few more examples to kind of go through it, because it's different people are going to do it in different ways and different images are going to do it, but you can get a bit of an idea for it then. So we have this Ansel Adams image, who always kind of did his rules perfectly, so he's a really good person to look at and understand. So he's put his waterfall perfectly on this line, everything's following this line, and then the foreground is all below this bottom line as well. So he's kind of doing it a few times, and then you've got other points kind of hitting this, so you've got a nice kind of focal point here as well. You've got a tree all in this third as well, so everything's sitting really neatly, and what it gives you is this very perfect image that your eye kind of flows around really nicely. A bit more of a simple example to look at for it. This one. So this one is just doing it perfectly. It's like someone did it with that in their mind, trying to perfectly create the perfect rule of thirds image, because we put that flower perfectly on that intersection up there. And again, it's that dynamic, that negative space that's always bringing your eye back to the most important thing. So with this one, it's a really simple image and it works really well, but it's always your eye just flowing very naturally back to that point. And the next example we've got then is one everyone will be familiar with. Well, not everyone will be familiar with, certainly one of our viewers will be familiar with. So again, it's really good to see images that you've seen before and understand that it's something you see all the time without realising it. So for some of the examples I'm coming up to, I tried to find ones that didn't do it, and it was really, really hard, because so many things, whether it's in films, whether it's in photography, whether it's in posters, they're always doing it. It's a great example. Got Nick's eye perfectly on that line, and then you got the focal point with Seb's foot, Nick's hand again on that intersection, and then Seb and Pippa are both sitting exactly on this line as well. So it's creating this really nice kind of centre point here, but everything's sitting on those lines. So without even realising we've done that. But we'll have a look at some more images now. So have we got other people joined in here? Wonderful. Hello, sorry to those who've joined late. So to recap, we're talking about the rule of thirds. So for those who don't already know, we'll go to this one because it's a really simple image. The rule of thirds is where you're splitting your image into 3 equal sections, vertically and horizontally, and it's creating this lovely grid. And what this is doing is, if you put your focus points or important parts of your image on either the lines or on the intersections, your eye is going to feel naturally drawn to those parts of the image. Seb's a bit bigger now, yeah. So yeah, the examples we've just gone through, got this one of Dima, who, this is quite a simple one, a bit like the flower one, where you've just got that lovely line here, and actually the background is sitting on it as well. But his eye is perfectly on that cross intersection there. The Ansel Adams image, where we've got the waterfall, and it just creates this really easy way for your eye to kind of flow through the image. And as I said, you'll see this appear in kind of pop culture and different things all the time. So obviously, another thing I said at the start was rules are there to be broken, so you don't have to be doing this, and it's not, doesn't make your image wrong if you're not doing it, but it's important to understand that rule before you go and break it. So again, yeah, the flower one's a really good example, and then this one going back to how everyone's sitting on those points perfectly as well. So let's test to see what everyone's done here, see if everybody's grasped what we're doing. So I'm going to show some examples on the screen, and like we did in week 1, we're going to look at whether it's number 1 or number 2 that's abiding to the rule of thirds. So first of all, I was watching Captain America when I wrote this, so I had to do it. So which of these is using the rule of thirds? Is it number 1 or number 2? Yep, perfect. All got it perfectly. So if we go to the next one, we can divide it up. Bottom one isn't a bad photo. I mean, it's a film still, but I do find this time and time again will appear in films. And as I said, I was trying to, I mean, particularly for this image, I Googled Captain America images, and every single one. I found it really hard to find that didn't do it, and it's still a really amazing image, except what you're doing is sitting in right in the middle. But obviously this one's brilliant because you put in all his expression and face into that far right third, but he's sitting exactly on the line, and then you're creating your kind of full set of thirds on the left where you've got nothing in at all, but it just leads you to him constantly. Even though he's looking out of the frame, you're kind of led back to his face and actually to the stars sitting just on it as well. So that's a perfect one to look at. Excellent. So we thought we'd use another one of ours with another familiar face on there as well. So which one of these is using a rule of thirds? Obviously, if you are sat watching your TV and you can't use the chat, please shout out. I'm sure we know in spirit that you're joining in, and we appreciate it anyway. And obviously, if you're watching afterwards, please, if I don't cut this bit, shout out at the TV. I will tell you the answer in a minute, but it's always a good feeling if you get it right, isn't it? So is it number 1 or number 2 that is using a rule of thirds? You can't change your answer after somebody else has said it before you. That's cheating, definitely. Yes, it is both. Perfect. And this is what you find. Some images will do it really, really obviously, and it might be that you don't realise why they look so good or why they work as an image, but then you drag a grid over the top and you realise that it's absolutely perfect. So that was the case with the bottom one. I picked that image out because I liked it, and then put the grid on and went, oh, it's perfect. So again, it's all your eyes sitting on that, and then you've got the focal point here. This one is much more obvious that obviously her eye is sat perfectly on it and all the focus of what's happening is in here. But again, it's creating that dynamic space as well. Look, if you're putting everything in those thirds, that your eye's being drawn there naturally to this point as well. So yeah, well done to those who got it right, and to those who cheated, less well done. Right, slightly harder one then for the next one. So is it number 1 or number 2 that is adhering to rule of thirds? Just joined, let me know, because I think we've got a couple more people joined in there that I haven't spotted, and I can recap in a moment, but just say hello if you can on YouTube. So I hope no one minds. I felt like we went a little bit over last week and took a little bit too long, so I'm trying to keep things a little bit more succinct this week. Sure, what you'll find as well is if you've all done weeks 1 and 2 as well, is that all these images you're going to be seeing shapes and colours that we've talked about. Oh, hopefully you are, if I've done the things well enough and taught you well enough. Wonderful. Yeah, everyone getting it right. It was a much harder one, this one, and quite easy to trip you up, but you've all got that. Yeah, so that horizon on the top image is perfectly on that rule of thirds. And then you've got the intersection on the bottom right here, where the focal point's sitting as well, and you've got most of the interest sitting in this bottom corner as well. So yeah, absolutely perfect, that one. Bottom one is an amazing image, and while again it's difficult because things sit within those rule of thirds, it doesn't strictly adhere to the rule, but you've got some gorgeous symmetry in that, which we will deal with another time. Wonderful. Right, does anybody want me to recap about the rule of thirds? Would that help before we move on? I hope I haven't kind of rushed through that too quickly and it's made a little bit of sense, but what we'll do 2 little tasks, and hopefully kind of by going through these everyone will pick it up and make sure they've understood. So first of all, I'm going to go away and I'm going to try shooting something using rule of thirds. For the first one, we're going to shoot something that sits just along one of those lines. Any of those lines, you've got kind of 4 options of lines to sit it along. I'm going to ignore the intersections for a moment. We're just going to have something. So the simplest way of doing this as a starting point is that horizon. So in landscape photos, you'll find a lot of them will sit along that line. So think about it like that, even if you're getting on top of a house or you're getting some like a shed or something in your garden or something like that, fence sitting along that line. That's a great way of starting with creating that rule of thirds. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to go and do that, and hopefully we'll get a few images coming through that are perfectly doing the rule of thirds if I've explained it well enough for everyone. So let's have a go, see what we can do. A little bit of a tip though, that might make things a bit easier, is you can actually put rule of thirds overlaying on a lot of smartphones. Oh, I've managed to try this on iPhone, I haven't tried it on Android, so I know on Android I apologise. But I think I know how to do it. So in iPhone, you're going to go to Settings, Camera, it's Camera and Photos, I think, and there's a grid button. Click that. That'll now overlay the rule of thirds on your phone. On Android, I think it's similar, but I think you go into the camera and then click Settings, and there's a grid button. It's something along those lines, but I haven't got one to try it on. But that will make things so much easier because you can then take photos using that. A little bit of a tip as well is don't just point the camera. Try moving around a little bit. Try moving it, especially if you've got those rule of thirds on screen, or even if you're just doing it in your head. Just kind of find that point before you pull the trigger. Don't feel like you just have to do it straight away. It's much better if you take your time and move around, whether that's looking up or down or turning the camera a little bit. Try it out and see how you go with it. But so we're looking for images that use the rule of thirds, and focus points of that image are going to sit along those lines for me. I'll let you guys go away for a minute and see how you get on. So hopefully everybody can have a go at this while we're online. So it's a good chance for people to get to know us and understand what we do at Rolf & Co as well. So that was a good one. So somebody asked, are you formally trained as a photographer? If not, then what is your work background? So yeah, both myself and Jenny, we actually met doing a degree in photography. So we did that as far as kind of education in photography. But I think the most important thing as far as learning, particularly in family photography, has been experience. I mean, I've worked with families for 10.5 years. So just getting to know how you get to know people, and just learning that kind of personality side of things has made a lot of difference in getting the best out of families in the studio, particularly when it comes to kids. Just having a million tricks up your sleeve and being able to get the most out of every single child has always made it a lot easier. You know, it was so much harder at the start, but you kind of pick up things as you go along, whether that's from watching other people or from learning from your mistakes. So I'm sure I'm 100 times better than I ever was when I first started, and that, you know, you can learn in the classroom as much as you want, but you can't ever beat going out and just doing it and getting used to it. So while a degree was all right, I think the actual informal education was a lot more important to us, and getting to know everything. And I think the same as well with running a business is neither of us got any training in that, so it's been an everyday learning kind of thing. So that's definitely helped. Is this your only job was another question as well, and it's a really good one because I don't think we point that out very often. We run Rolf & Co Photography, two of us, with no other jobs, no other source of income. So everything we're doing is all in. We work really hard, and this is our job, this is our life. So every day we're living Rolf & Co Photography with no distractions, which is why we're so quick at answering on social media and things like that as well. Right, just got some pictures coming in. I'll try and answer another question after us as well. Was that Facebook it came in on? I spotted a notification, but I was busy talking. I know it's Instagram, my bad. Let's have a look. I'm going to try not to show every single picture this time, because I think it can get a little bit much when I'm just spending my entire time trying to look through an iPad for you. Well, might not show any if they're not good. Certainly doesn't help when it's going slow. I mean, we should be better quality today on YouTube. Oh, lovely. Yeah, perfect. So this one is literally just dissect the image, two lines down the middle, so you got your 3/3. Perfectly, the different colours kind of do that really well as well. So just showing it. Oh my god, somebody's just sent loads. Oh, lovely, I like that one. There we go. So that one, we've got the blue sky at the top and the fence creating that top third line. What else have we got?
I asked you.
Sorry, I'm trying not to show you all of them. Nice done. Shut up, Ralph. There you go. I like that only does it part way along. So just at the top there, with the cooker hood, we've got that third line. And then at the bottom as well, I think the worktop's doing it as well. Well done. Using a couple of theories there. I love that with the little mouses coming in. So I don't know how easy it is to see, but we've got, is it tiles? Anyway, the line at the top behind the clock creating that third line. And I suspect that does the next task as well. So in a minute we're going to use those intersection points, and I think the middle of the clock does that. Sorry. Yeah, so all we're doing here for anyone who's joined in late is we're using the rule of thirds. So we're going away to create images that make, excuse me, sorry, I'm doing two things at once, that key points of an image sit along those third lines. So if I just bring one up for everyone to look at. So we're putting key points of our image along these lines. So whichever one you want, but this is called the rule of thirds. So if everyone wants to have a quick go at that, and we'll do a slightly different one in a moment. How's everyone finding that? Has that made sense? It definitely looks from the pictures that everyone's doing it right, so that's a good start. Did everyone manage to get the grid coming up on their phones as well? Has everyone managed that? Because it really does help when you're holding that up, if you're able to literally just line it up while you're taking the shot. So you do it on Let's see if I can do it on screen here. I'm sure it does it on the iPad as well. So you go to settings. Where are we? I think the battery just died on our light. There we go. Is it on here? Hang on. I can't show you on my phone. Yeah, so settings, camera, and there's a grid button here, so it's turned off at the moment. Oh, hello. Go closer. So it says grid in settings and camera. Press that, and then now and we go on. We've got those rule of thirds. Everyone see that? So then as you're moving around, you can start lining things up a little bit easier. So here, I'm doing this backwards, this is confusing. I could easily line that bottom third line up with the window, and actually the other one with the wall in the corner, and get the rule of thirds there perfectly. But yeah, and again on Android I think you can do the same. I'm sure it's camera. Once you're in the camera there's a settings button in there, and if you go into that it's got again a grid option. I'm sure it's worded very similarly. But if anyone's on Android, Stu, if you can confirm or deny that, that would be brilliant. Right, so next one we're going to do, it's very similar, but hopefully it'll help. Where have we gone? So this time we're going to use the other element I said about. So I said about putting them on that line. This time we're going to put them on the intersection of the lines. So that flower one was the best one we had to look at. So we're going to position something. I find for this exercise, it might work better if you keep it really, really simple with less things in the image. Feel free to do that by setting it up a little bit, but we're going to put a key point on one of those 4 intersections of the line. And yeah, send them over. Let's have a look. Let us know what you think. Is everything making sense to everyone? Have I explained things okay? It's a fairly complicated rule, but when you say it, but in essence it's very simple, and in images it looks very simple and tends to work perfectly. What it'll tend to do, particularly with an image like this, when you put it on the intersection with lots of space, is it creates a very dynamic image with lots of negative space in there. But what it will generally do, particularly with the landscapes like we were saying, putting on those lines, is it creates a very visually pleasing image and it feels more right on your eye. A horizon in the middle doesn't feel very natural. You're much more likely, particularly with the landscape, to see it on the bottom third with sky above, because the sky looks bigger and it makes the land look smaller. But it can work in any type of images as we've shown. So whether you're doing it the other way around and we're getting those really important points on the lines, which is just drawing your eye through the image, through to obviously in a group photo, it's just again keeping those key points so that the space is in the extra bits, but the key points are on those lines. And obviously, yeah, having the eyes on the line or eyes on that intersection really works as well. So we're creating images using the rule of thirds. So I'll answer another question that we got sent in while we're at it. So on an average week, how many clients do you shoot? So obviously all our clients come in, they will have a shoot and a viewing. So that's 2 different appointments in a week in effect. So we'll have probably between 4 and 5 shoots in a week, which means we're kind of probably having 8 to 10 appointments in a week, but obviously only half of them are shoots. So yeah, we're not a hugest volume, and obviously we'll have weeks where we only have 2 or 3 shoots and viewings, but we'll have some where we have 6 or 7 shoots, so we're having 14, 15 appointments in a week, but it's all about the average in the middle. But yeah, we do get very varied amounts. But yeah, I don't think quite a lot of people kind of don't realise, as it came the question before, it is our only job, so obviously that's how many we need to keep going, really. How's everyone getting on with those intersections? I think actually, if I go back to the one Dom sent us with the clock, that one did both of those tasks. That was a really good one to look at. So while we've got, am I all right there? That way? Mm-hmm. That's it. While we've got the line doing the rule of thirds here, that clock piece, I think, pretty much sits on that intersection. So it's a really lovely example of doing both of these tasks in one. You can sit down and have a brew, Dom. Well done. Everyone taking their time with this one then. Very little outside ones. Oh, Elisa's were outside, weren't they? Here we go. Oh, lovely, yes. Perfect. So yeah, that lizard's sitting perfectly on that intersection. I think it's probably, yeah, it's about there, isn't it, sitting on the intersection. Ooh. Yeah, that's really good. And like I said, I like that simplicity is a really good way to kind of learn that theory, because you've had to move that around. Hopefully the grid has helped you with it as well, but helped you get it into position and make sure you're getting it just perfect. And often simplicity in photos is a really, really good way of doing it and kind of keeping things easy to look at. How's everyone else getting on? There we go. Love that, Dom. Again, Dom using all the theories in one go there. That's brilliant. Got some lovely shape going on there. And yeah, that light switch is sitting perfect. I'm off screen completely there. Sorry, guys.
No, that's Instagram.
Oh, I'm looking at Instagram, that's why. There you go. So yeah, that light switch is sitting perfectly on that intersection there.
Hold it back a bit so both cameras can see. I think.
There you go. Lovely. Sorry, I can't work out where I'm supposed to be holding anything. Moving it all over the place.
Moving it to one.
There we go. Yeah, no, that's really lovely. And we've got one more to look at, I think, here. Okay. Ooh, everything's coming up now. Oh, I like that one. That's really good, Lisa. Yeah. So that weed sitting perfectly on that intersection. Oh. Dear me, Instagram, stop it. Yeah. Weed sitting perfectly on that intersection in the top corner. And there we go.
Need to hold it back so YouTube can see it.
So there you go. So yeah, that fan's sitting on it as well. Oh, got loads coming through. Yeah. Some of these were twice, I think. That's why. Okay. Hang on, Dom. I'm getting to that one. Let's have a look. So while you've got with that one, Dom, to help everyone, we've got that horizon, that end of the garden line sitting on the rule of thirds, and your mum's sitting on the intersection. I would have liked to have seen your mum on that intersection and the pot plant on the other one. So if you went and took it this way a little bit more, she's going to move now, I know, but that would have been really nice if you'd then had the 2 points kind of there and there sitting on the intersection. That would have been really nice, and that would have kind of created a really nice mirrored effect because they're kind of opposite, so that would have been good. But yeah, I think everybody grasped that perfectly, so that's really good. Either everybody already knew it or I explained it okay, so we're good. Wonderful. Where are we? Okay. So, everyone, yeah, did really, really well. Really happy with the images we got there. But we want to keep making them better. So like I've said on other weeks, it's not just about taking one picture, that'll do, moving on. It's about redoing it, making it even better, improving, using what you've learned to make it better. But, challenge for you all, what we're going to do with this one is use what we've learned today with what you've learned from previous weeks, and we're going to create an image that uses the rule of thirds plus one other thing from either episode 1 or 2. So that's either using your colour theory or you're creating shapes, and we're going to put both of those theories into one image. So if you send those across to us before kind of Monday evening so we can get them into the video in time and show you them all on Tuesday. And obviously, if you haven't already done the homework from Tuesday just gone, positive comments, positive replies on people's images on the Facebook group is really good, because obviously it's what we all need at this time. Bit of positive vibes and keeping looking after each other would be perfect. Does anyone have any questions then? before we finish? Have I made sense and helped everyone out here? Yeah, and if anyone's got anything they want, you know, if they want feedback on images, we'll try our best to be honest all the time for you. So we'll always help out and try and help you get the best from your images. And hopefully everyone worked out how to get that grid up on their camera and be on there forever now and constantly see you using it. You know, even if you're taking pictures of your family and it's just kind of day-to-day photos, having that, using that theory just to make them that little bit more interesting and keeping a bit more dynamic in there, it just makes them much nicer to come back to in the future. And as I said, technically perfect doesn't matter. They don't need to be, you know, a little bit blurry, a little bit bad quality. It doesn't matter. What we're trying to do here is teach that theory and understand how we can make things better in the future with our pictures. What's everyone saying, Jen?
Equally.
Absolutely, it works equally in portrait mode. So if we go back, Ansel Adams one was perfect. While it's a little bit more obvious when you're shooting landscapes and you're shooting in that horizontal landscape format, it's a bit easier to put into action. It still works perfectly in every way. You can still do it in a square as well and it still works. It just becomes more obvious and clear in other images, and that's why I put this one in, because without the grid you don't particularly notice it's there. But again, it's a great example of people doing it. It works, but you don't really notice they're doing it. So when you put that grid over the top, you notice that everything on that line is that foreground. So foreground sits below that. You've got your kind of your distance all above in the top 2/3. So almost this is your horizon, you know, in a landscape image. So it still works perfectly. And yeah, just having that waterfall as your main point of interest. It's the whole point of the photo. Completely along that third line. So yeah, you can do it in any shape and it'll always work. I mean, I was doing them just as simple as different shapes of photos. You know, obviously in movies you're a more widescreen format, but still, as long as those thirds are equal, it'll still work. But yeah, works on everything. It's yeah, as you say, Lisa, it is quite a simple theory. It sounds more complicated than it is because you're calling it a rule. You're saying thirds. You're starting to sound mathsy and stuff. And yes, there's kind of maths and science behind it, but the simplicity is it looks better if you do this. But yeah, as I said, rules are made to be broken. People do it perfectly all the time, breaking the rules. I mean, where's that canoe one? Kayak one, sorry. Like, perfect symmetry. Like, everything doing that is exactly the opposite to all the thirds, but yeah, works perfectly. So wonderful. Right then, yeah, so if everyone can keep shooting images, we want to see evidence of both this week and one other week. It doesn't have to be all three. I appreciate that's really hard and we're going to make you think too much when all our brains are going to sleep at the moment. But yeah, so doing rule of thirds plus one other theory. So it might be that you put your analogous colours in there, your complementary colours, your primary colours, or you're using your rule of thirds and getting a lovely triangle going onto one of the intersections or something like that. So have a play, send us lots and lots of pictures. We'll show everyone through all of the ones we've looked at. So there's a bit more to look at on Tuesday. But have a look over the weekend and keep talking to us. Yeah, perfect. Let us know and we'll see everybody on Tuesday. Have a lovely weekend. Goodbye.